What's going on, my friend? Welcome back to the Podcast Domination Show. This is a really cool episode. It's actually a Facebook Live that I did with a former client of mine and good friend of mine named Rick Barker. Rick is the former manager of Taylor Swift. He also has worked with the Florida Georgia Line, Big Machine Records, and tons of other music artists out there. So on this podcast, you're going to hear a little bit about Rick's journey through podcasting. You're going to hear about what he's doing now. You're going to hear about some of his biggest successes, his advice to podcasters. I mean, Rick is a very smart marketer. He's been in radio for about 30 years. The guy knows his stuff. So Rick and I have a lot to share on this episode. So enjoy. Make sure you go and follow him at Rick Barker, or just type in Rick Barker on Instagram, or just go to rickbarker.com. And his podcast is named The Music Industry Blueprint. So MIB, Music Industry Blueprint podcast. Amazing show. And you'll learn a lot if you're a musician looking to leverage social media the right way. So without further ado, enjoy my episode with my buddy, Rick Barker. And one quick note, if you want to see the video version of this podcast, then go to the Podcasters Inner Circle on Facebook. Type in the Podcasters Inner Circle, no apostrophe, and you can see the video version, which is cool because he actually shows some cool stuff in here that you won't be able to really figure out or see on the podcast, obviously. So check that out as well. Super valuable, and enjoy the show. Hey guys, Lewis here with a quick shameless plug. If you've been wanting to start a podcast, or you already have a podcast, it's just not performing as well as you want it to, and you'd like my team and I to see if we can help you with our customized podcasting solution, then I want to invite you to go to dominatewithlewis.com. That's dominatewithlewis.com. So on that page, obviously, it's going to be an application-only process. Once you fill out that application, I will personally reach out to you to book a time for us to chat. And on that call, a few things are going to happen. So number one, I'm going to actually give you some advice that's going to help you get past whatever you're doing. So no matter what, if you decide to move forward or if you're just there to get some advice, I'm going to help you either way. And then number two, I'm going to share with you if I can actually help you, or I will refer you out to someone who I know can definitely help you. So if that sounds good and you want to chat, then go to dominatewithlewis.com. That's DOMINATE, dominate with WITH, Luis, LUIS.com. Thanks. Hope to talk soon. It's funny. So I remember the event we met at, which is Ask Live. That was, for some reason, Ryan Levesque's ads popped up in my feed recently. And I was just like, it just gave me memories of that event, which is awesome, man. But to set the context, I guess, Rick, I want to definitely touch on a little bit about what you do now and what you've been doing for the last, what has it been, 20 or 30 years now?
Yeah, I've been in for a couple days.
Yeah.
I've been in the music business for a couple days, that's for sure.
Yeah. What you do, and then we can fast forward into the podcast and what kind of platform and leverage that has really turned in for you in your business. Like what's that? How are you using that now? Sure. And I'm sure you've told the story a million times, but you've got a pretty amazing story. So
no, I think that, and thank you for having me, by the way. It was, it's funny because yesterday I was watching a Ryan video when he was talking about being stuck at home and they were about to embark on the 6,000 Lego piece journey. And then recently I was on the ClickFunnels cruise and I was speaking and ran into a guy that says, "Did you speak at Ryan's Levesque's event in Vegas by any chance?" And I said, "Yes, I did." So it's funny because it all keeps coming back to that. But for me, my background, I got my start in radio. That's all I ever wanted to do, which podcasting works out perfect for me now because it allows me to kind of fill that void. But radio is what I did. I did that up until 2001 when I was pulled out of radio to work for a record company. With that record company, there was a little girl who was 15 at the time named Taylor Swift. 6 months later, I became her manager with zero experience, managed Taylor in 2008, left Taylor in 2008, started creating online courses and programs to help musicians all over the world get their music out into the world, got very good at understanding social media and got verified on the platforms, was the social media mentor for the American Idol contestants, started speaking at music conferences all over the world, and just kept going deep on the digital marketing side of things. What I tell everyone is we are digital marketers. It's like right now, as we're having this conversation, if somebody watches this video years from now, it's March 16th, 2020, and most of the world's in a shutdown right now because of the coronavirus. This is an amazing opportunity and an amazing time when people aren't going to be distracted with sporting events and concerts and going out to eat dinner. They're going to be in front of their phone and in front of their computer, and it gives you as a creator a chance to start building that relationship. And that's one of the things that I started doing early on, utilizing social. And like everyone else, when I started with a podcast, it was like, oh, here's this cool thing called Spreaker. I'll just drop 6 episodes, and then I stopped just like everyone else. And then you and I met and changed the game that time for me.
Yeah, that was a really cool meeting. I want to definitely, you talked about a really good point here with the whole coronavirus thing. This is not the point of the conversation today. We kind of booked this a little bit ahead of time before I even thought about this. Yeah, but you made a great point there. The fact there's no sporting events, there's no contests, no concerts, nobody's traveling, nobody's even going to school or work. I mean, my girlfriend who works here in Austin downtown at a big software company, she's home. Yep. She's working from home. I mean, nobody's going anywhere. So you're right. Like the phone, people are already on their phone a bunch already. It's amplified now that everything's shut down.
It is. And if you guys are not using Instagram stories and Instagram live right now, start. That's where the world is at. Over 600 million active daily users. And I use what I'll do every podcast episode. Every day we share the podcast. We usually share it from Spotify. And the reason that we do that, one, I'll tell you that sponsorship story and how I came into the Spotify world through Anchor. But one is because the music people that I'm trying to reach are there. Right. And Spotify's putting a lot of money into podcasts right now. But what happens is if you're on your phone, you go to your podcast, you click the share button, the 3 little dots next to the episode, it's going to say share. You can share it in Instagram stories. Once you click that, it's going to open up in your Instagram story and you can write some cool little stuff. And when you share it, it's going to have a little button that says open up in Spotify. So then people can actually go to your Spotify page, subscribe. Same thing can happen with Apple and everything. But it's a way for you every day to share your podcast through these other social channels and not sit around and wait for people to find you. Okay? That's your job to get that information in front of them. So that's what I want to encourage you guys to do is go play with that a little bit. It's super easy to do. And in a second, if we need to, I can show you how to do it.
We might have to. I'm trying to pull up my podcast here on Spotify. It's saying something went wrong, but I have the link.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me plug this in. Sorry for the cold sore, guys. I got coronavirus on the lip.
Gosh. Let's hope that heals faster than the normal coronavirus.
Yeah, right.
But,
okay. I'll just show you guys how to do it real quick. So let's go share. Let's grab the phone. All right.
Yeah, I figured Spotify for you as a music creator, as a guy who is, authority in that space. That's a number one platform. So
right.
I think it's really good. Like you just knowing your audience, the fact that most musicians are there, and if you're someone else in this group who has an audience similar, it's like maybe Apple or maybe Spotify or maybe another platform may be more tailored to you. So using those links and prioritizing that platform is a huge. It's just about just simply knowing your audience and knowing where they're at and putting 2 and 2 together. Very, very smart move.
Well, that's what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to make sure that we can get people where they are, and where they are is that they are on these platforms. That's what's happening. So it's like it's completely up to us. It won't let me plug in, but we'll just do it this way.
That's
so
perfect.
Go here.
Yep.
Hit music.
Got it.
Hit Spotify.
Got it.
Okay. Then in the search, I'll go to Emma Music Industry Blueprint Podcast. It shows up right away. So there you have your podcast.
Yep.
Episode 193. Hit the 3 dots.
Bingo.
Go down to share. Then it's going to say Instagram stories. And now it opens it up inside of Instagram stories. And you just hit your story and it shares it. And then when you come back up, it lets you play it on Spotify. So I just tell people, use your socials as your own radio station, as your own distribution platform. And they all play well together. So that's something that you're able
That's a really, really great point. I never even knew that. Now, do you have to have a paid account for that on Spotify or no? Just have the app?
Yeah, anybody could share anything. They encourage you to do that because if somebody shares to someone who doesn't have a Spotify account, it'll then say, would you like to get a Spotify account? So they're giving us the tools to help them grow their membership.
Exactly. I love that. So that's a really cool tip. That's not even planned. Just I think the fact that we were just talking about here, everyone's on their phones right now because of coronavirus and no one's going anywhere, is this super simple tip you can use. I'm curious for you. So you started your podcast when we started that in 2018, and I want to say February or March. So it's been been about 2 years. Over the course of your, so you were doing about 3 episodes a week.
Now I was doing 2 a week, and now I'm down to 1 a week, which is good. Yeah. So I just released episode 193 this morning. So I released my podcast on Monday, and now I do YouTube videos on Wednesdays. So I didn't want to do 2 podcasts and a YouTube video. And what I was starting to notice for me is that my numbers would drop off towards the weekend.
Yep.
They would go crazy on holidays. People would binge watch and binge listen and stuff like that. They were great. But I realized that people wanted me in the beginning of the week to kind of motivate them and get them pumped up and get them fired up. So I still have the same number of downloads every week that I did with 1 episode that I had with 2 episodes before.
Wow. Okay.
Which is interesting. So we looked at the numbers a lot.
Okay.
With that. And I also just felt too is that people, I didn't want to burn them out because I go live a lot on Instagram Live, so it's like, okay, enough of Rick already.
Right.
So that's kind of how we were looking at it, was like, okay, let's slow this thing down a little bit. So when we went to 1 a week, we did that right around the time that we switched our hosting, and I had signed that contract with Gary Vee's company, Gallery Media, for them to distribute the podcast. That was about that time when we went down to 1 a week.
Got it. Okay. Now I'm curious for you, how did that all come about? The whole moving in with Gary and kind of partnering with his team.
So,
how did that come about?
Yeah. So it was, I stayed consistent with you guys for a year.
Yep.
And you guys were running everything for me.
Yep.
And then things started changing in my business, and I always felt that I never wanted to really be dependent on everyone. So I took what Louie and Vanessa had been doing, and I had someone who was doing that. So we started doing that as well for ourselves. And then I was hit up. So I was at Lipson with you guys.
Yeah.
Then I went to Buzzsprout. I think I had Buzzsprout for a second. And then Art 19 was what I had with Gallery, and now I'm with Anchor. But to lead up to that was somebody was at a meeting in New York with VaynerMedia. Oh, my buddy Ben from Vigo Pictures. He was running Kevin Hart stuff at the time, doing some stuff with influencers. And he met the guys from Gallery Media and said, hey, you should check out my buddy Rick Barker. He's got this podcast. He's in the music space. He used to manage Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all started. So then they went to check out the podcast. Right. And they saw consistency. They saw the topics that I was covering. And they were like, Gary's been wanting to add a music podcast into our distribution channel. Mm. And what I said to them was I said, well, listen, I don't want a bunch of ads running for erectile pills and crap inside my podcast just so you guys can make money. And they go, no, we completely understand. They said, what do you use? How do you make money with your podcast?
Yeah.
I said, my email list grows, 200, 300 emails every month because I know directly from the podcast. I said, I lead people, my podcast, I send people to a free training, and then I sell them the free training. I think my podcast, I could easily say my podcast does $100,000 a year for me in building credibility online, allowing people to hear me solve their problems, and then me driving them, hey, if you want more information, just head over to rickbarker.com or go grab Rick's free book. I mean, I can tell you the book downloads of the digital book from the podcast, every time I mention it, you can tell when I launch a podcast that day, because there'll be 50, 60 brand new people grabbing a free copy of my digital book.
And that's been, correct me if I'm wrong, has that been your call to action from day one, or have you changed it over time? How has that evolved? Like
the call to action from day one was the book.
Okay.
Then it's changed to the manager assessment. When I moved my business into offering management services last October, now it's like, hey, if you feel you and I are at a point where you might want to learn if I could be your manager, head over to managemymusiccareer.com. So yeah, I popped that off on everything. I have recorded outros that talk about that. Anchor's been cool. They just recently reached out to me. Gary moved his hosting over to Anchor because it's free, and he was paying about $250,000 a month because of the size of his downloads with what he was having at this other company. So Anchor came to him, even knowing they won't be able to run any ads, but they brought him over. And then they said, hey, tell us about that music podcast that you have. We were just acquired by Spotify. So Anchor reached out. Gallery let me out of my contract. I moved over to Anchor at this point because they have my potential client. And if I'm doing everything I can to tell people how to use Spotify and share podcasts, maybe they'll pop me in someplace. They're going to start doing some education for artists, and I'm interested in being in that space to helping them do that. If you just type in music and start with the I pop up. It's like I've really positioned myself well there. So yeah, I like being with Anchor right now. I do Anchor. What's cool is I don't pay for hosting. And I did my own Anchor commercial for them, just saying, hey, everywhere I go, people are always asking me, Rick, how do I start a podcast? Is it easy? What equipment do you use? And I said, it's super easy. I use Anchor. It's like a minute-long commercial that I recorded. I throw it now, and I get paid. Little clicks. Yeah. It's like they pay, I think, $15 per 1,000 or something like that. But it's like you can go in and put it in all your past episodes. So anybody listening to your old stuff, you can start getting paid from past episodes as well.
Super interesting. Cool. So you've definitely, with that acquisition or being part of that network, has really, really helped you just open up the door and getting more exposure. It
does. And when you're able to tell people that you're a podcast host, something to that, people love it.
Right. Now, I know you do some speaking and you travel a decent bit when we're not on lockdown here. Doing anything specifically at events to promote the podcast? Where do you send people?
No, it's just what happens is whenever people introduce me, former manager of superstar Taylor Swift, host of the Music Industry Blueprint podcast. That's what I have everybody say. Whenever I do my webinars, I say, look, I speak at events. I'm a podcast host. Shameless plug, comes out every Monday. Everywhere I talk about, people put authority on you when they can go see what it is that you're doing. When they can see the fact that you've got something going on, people will look at that and go, okay, this is cool. This guy must be something because, and then the thing is that once you have something that's professional, once you have something that's consistent, the thing that you brought to me was consistency. I thought that it would take a lot more time than it does. I thought that it would be harder than it does. Right now, I have people every week reaching out, wanting me to be a guest on their podcast, them wanting to be a guest on mine. I don't use my podcast as a guest thing that often. It's like artists are like, hey, I would like to be on your podcast and share my, I'm like, well, now you save that for my clients, but mine is a teaching podcast, not a promoting podcast. So if someone's just coming on to talk about their new record, it's like, unless you have something that you can teach that's duplicatable for my audience, that's not what my podcast is about.
Yeah. So a couple things I want to ring off there that I think are super important for people to learn. Number one, you're super consistent. Even if you change up the cadence from 2 to 1, whatever, every week you're coming out with new stuff. Yep. Number two, you know what you're there for, as in teaching. So you're positioning yourself automatically as the expert because you're not bringing as many guests on, if any guests on at all. And like I've seen your episodes, they're shorter, they're to the point. They teach one or two things.
Today's a longer one. It's like 25 minutes. Usually they're between 8 to 15, unless I have a great guest. I've gone to an hour.
Gotcha.
Before. That's the max for me.
Right. Majority though, are like 8 to 10 minutes typically with your.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Gotcha. In and out, people learn, and then they go ahead and then your call to action also. Is it now it's still promoting the book, or is it now?
No, I send them to management. Once they get to my website, if they go to rickbarker.com, that's where they get everything. And that's where I drive everyone for the show notes, for everything.
Got it.
But one of the things that really changed for me is that you can't teach on a podcast. You can't physically teach someone how to do something. It's really hard. I can show you a trick like we just did.
Right.
You want to give them the what they need to do and why they need to do it, and then send them to the how.
I like that.
So that you can collect an email address so that you can then carry on that conversation. A lot of podcasters will try to give way too much on the podcast that the person doesn't have a reason to follow up with you. You want to give them a reason to follow up with you. So give them the why they need to do it, the what they need to do, but don't show them the how. And I was guilty of showing them the how. Now it's just, I try to wow them enough to say, hey, and if you'd love a free copy of my book, I'd love to send you one. Just go to ricksfreebook.com. Matter of fact, head over to my website. It's all there for you. I have everything set up on my website. Every button they click, they go into a funnel, whether it be the manager assessment, whether it be the book, whether it be the social media for music, wherever I send them. That's why I think sending them to something that you own, which is your website, so then that way you can go back and retarget them later, I think super important.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And with you, I know you've definitely worked with Ryan Levesque. You work with some of the best in the world when it comes to, I'm pulling up your website right now, share with on the screen with everybody, because I think it's really brilliant how you have it up. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. There it is.
Cool.
So that's the podcast. Awesome. So at the bottom of the page is it's always a podcast.
Got it. All your episodes. Exactly.
Yeah, so if you go to podcast, I use Pat Flynn's Smart Podcast Player.
Yeah, that's a really slick player. So that's that always looks good. Nice brand, nice pictures here. All the episodes, bingo.
Yep.
So if you
go to the home,
subscribe.
If you go to the home, if you go to subscribe, you can click that. I'm using a smart
link.
Which is going to let them pick. So Are You Ready for a Manager is going to take them to a funnel.
Got it.
So articles, podcast assessment, listen to the podcast, most popular episodes of the podcast we put in there. One of the things that I'm doing right now, if you go to Spotify tips and tricks, this is something, go roll up the Spotify tips and tricks. What I've been doing is taking my YouTube videos and embedding my YouTube videos inside the blog article so that I get the play credit for that, but I also keep them on my website longer for SEO.
Right.
So that's another strategy that we're doing. Instead of always sending them someplace else, I want to send them to my website so I can get the SEO and be the expert.
Exactly. And I'm guessing you also have this Facebook pixel, or they're probably.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Right. So it's like you could actually, if you just drive all the traffic from your podcast to maybe your homepage or landing page.
Yeah, that's what I do. I just send them to the website.
Create a lookalike audience, and you can run paid ads to your podcast essentially with a lookalike audience once you've got enough impressions, which is brilliant. For you, how else have you leveraged your podcast or what you're doing there with that content? Are there any other specific ways you've leveraged it to help you grow revenue, grow your traffic?
Well, I just think anytime that you can continue to build authority and grow your authority, it helps. So with Anchor, people can ask questions. So there's an app. So Anchor does well on the phone, and if you go to podcast, so go to podcast again and go into any of the show notes. So just go to today's podcast, for example.
Gotcha. So, that was like one.
That was like a popular episode. So just go into podcast, scroll down.
Let's go to recent. Okay.
Yeah. So when you see this, hit the more button here. So inside here, if you would like to leave me a message, you can hit the anchor.message, and now people can send you a voice message, which you can now put right into your episode. So I'll go people, and then I just say to them, hey, if you'd like to be featured in a future episode, head over to the website, check out the show notes, and you've got a link to do that. I'm doing whatever I can to get them over
to the website.
Yeah.
And are you finding people are using this? Like, are you getting people like asking questions and stuff?
Yeah, a couple times a week. Some people, like I even sent an email that said, hey, if you'd like to be featured on one of my podcasts, and then I put that link to that. Some people thought I was looking for guests, obviously, because I don't read. But the people who understood, and that ended up with like 10, 15 questions. So what happens is, if you want to let me share for a second.
Yep, feel free.
Go share, go to Chrome, go to Anchor. What I've learned with Zoom is sharing your desktops easier. So I moved to Anchor about a month and a half ago. We've already had 55,000 total plays on Anchor. But when you go into if I want to go create a new episode, messages, here's this person.
Hi, Rick, your old pal keeping the country. Hey, I just wanted to give you a shout out.
So then you just take it, drag it right into the episode. Then you go into your library. So if you go in here, you've got here's what today looked like. So I had my March 6th, 17th intro. Then I had my episode. Then I'm able to go in and drop my updated intro. But what I'll do is this, is I'll take the episode, then I'll take a bleep. I'll add one of these people.
Got it. One of these questions, right? You just.
My name is Ronald. I am a saxophonist and multi-instrumentalist from Miami, Florida.
So then I'll go in and I'll answer his question at the end. And I'll say, hey, if you'd like to ask a question, just go to the notes and they do that. And you can even do this on your phone.
Do you collect an email from that? From people opting in, or people like submitting the question? Do they have to submit an email as well? Or
no, they can just do a voice question at that point.
I gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they just do a voice question. But what it does too is when they submit their voice question, it gives you a chance to, you're building a next step in that relationship.
Yeah.
With them.
Gotcha. Do you have any follow up with those people afterwards? Like if you had an email, it'd be easy to, here are some things we can help you with. We could send them a free book. That way they get on.
One of the things that I'm getting ready to do is I just bought a program called Direct Heroes. And it is one of the first CRMs for Instagram. And it allows me, I can say, hey, and just DM me in my Instagram, the keyword social. And soon as they do, it sends them to the opt-in for social media for music. Send the DM word, just DM me the word manager, DM me the word this.
Yeah.
And it's like legit. It's going to be super simple, super easy. And
Direct Heroes.
Yeah. If you're interested, I've got a link I can send you and you can play around with it. It's in beta right now and it's an invite only kind of situation, but right now it's $97 a month and I get up to 100,000 people. Cause what happens is everybody who uses that keyword now gets put on a DM list. And from inside Direct Heroes dashboard, you can DM every single person that's on that list and just say, hey, I just released a special podcast this week on this. Boom, it goes to all those people that want manager. Yeah, it's the first CRM for Instagram.
I feel like I heard about something like that a long time ago. And then I messed around with the software. It's probably a different company. It just didn't work, but they didn't have it up and running. It was just like a waiting list.
This is legit.
That's cool. That is really cool. Okay, cool. So we'll, if you want, I can put the link, or if you want to share the link, if not, don't worry. I know it's invite only, so.
No, that's fine. I can
pop it over.
Yeah, let's go into directheroes.com. I will put it into the Facebook chat, and then you can have it as well.
Cool. I'll make sure I share that. That's a really, really cool thing you can do. And even for podcast promotion, if you ever want to have sponsors, you could sell advertising on that because that's a spot, that's inventory now. So very, very interesting. Anything else before I just want to wrap up here and make sure I respect your time. But Rick, what are some other things or anything you've learned now that you wish you knew when we launched in 2018?
I think that we launched at the right time for me. I think that we spend way too much time on the show notes and things like that. The majority of people don't ever go there.
Yeah.
And I think that we could take that time and use to promote the podcast through socials versus spending all that time. I thought that I was wasting a lot of your people's time. It's like, I think sometimes we forget that people want all this stuff. Also, too, is I would have sent them and built a show note page on my website earlier, place for my podcast on the website. I stopped for the longest time. I was like, and go to Apple and leave a review and subscribe and do all this stuff. And it was like, I just felt that I wasted a call to action. I would rather get them to someplace I know. My ego got out of the way and I didn't care how many reviews I had, even though I got up to like 300, which was great. And I was outperforming everybody. And then I heard Amy Porterfield read a review every week. And I'm like, damn, I'm still in that. That is great. So then I told people, if you would like me to talk about you on the podcast, I started appealing to people's egos. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I need them to get to the website. So I would have started driving them to the website a lot sooner. I would have started putting everything in reference to the podcast on the website sooner. That's probably what I would have done.
Got it. That way you kind of keep everything centralized and all your traffic you now know is directed back to the website. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Where you get the traffic that you can then go back and retarget.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Even for people who don't have high ticket services or products, if you have enough people who you land on that page, you can retarget. You can create lookalike audiences. You can also retarget for affiliate promotions. You may not have something, but you may want to serve someone else, so you can do that. So 100%. That's a great point. Man, Rick, anything else? I think you shared a couple of really good things. The Spotify tip, the Instagram CRM.
Yep.
where you should really focus on sending your traffic.
Yep.
So I think those are 3 really, really good points, man. So I just thank you.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate you. Like I said, the whole reason I have a podcast today is because you talked me into it and showed me how easy it was, and I got out of my own way.
Yeah. That's
how we roll.
Yeah, man. I'm super appreciative. Vanessa says hi, by the way. She told me
Tell her I said hello as well. I was just about to tell you the same thing.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So guys, if you have any questions, I don't see any questions here. I have to check the Facebook group. I've been on Instagram Live, so holding it with my other hand here.
That's funny. Multitasking.
Oh yeah. You mentioned early on about the whole Instagram thing. I was like, if I don't put Instagram on this, I'll be a
if you guys follow me on Instagram at Rick Barker Music, DM me, let me know that you're part of the podcasting group, and I'll hit you back.
100%. Well, I'll link it in the comments as well. And then if we make this into a podcast episode, we'll see. It's kind of hard visually, but we'll do what we can.
Back later and do a podcast episode. Make it right.
100%.
Practice what we preach.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you.
Yeah. Take care. Hey, and don't forget, I have a number of free bonuses for you. These are free templates, guides, and stuff that I've actually included in my recent book, How to Get Your First 100,000 Downloads in 100 Days. But you don't even have to buy the book. I'm just going to give this to you for free. All you have to do is go to LuisRyan, LuisRyan.com/book. There is a simple form where you fill out your name and your email, and you get a ton of free stuff, all the templates and guides that I included in the book, but you don't have to buy the book. So you're saving yourself a chunk of money. That literally will take you probably less than 2 minutes to accomplish or perform. So enjoy that. That's my gift to you. Use it. Don't just let it fall by the wayside. And I'll see you on the next episode.